Chapter 1 Romantic Warrior Takeda Keiji 3rd Year, Class F. Part 5. One day, Kamakshiro was gone. She just stopped coming to school. I didn't know much, but it seemed that she had run away. "You're kidding," I said as I heard the news. "Really? The teacher told us. She hasn't come home," one of the girls in class said calmly. "Why? Why would she run away?" "I don't know. That girl hardly ever talked to us. I bet she thought her pretty face would let her get by in Tokyo or something," the girl snorted. The girls in class were much less expressive than Kamakshiro, who was always laughing and joking. But, she had good grades. She looked like she was ready to pass the entrance exam for the college that she wanted to go to, right? You sure know a lot about her. What? Did you have a thing for her, Takeda-kun? It's not like that. Still, I started to say. The leader of the girls in class, Sasaki, said quietly, "I think I know how she felt. Ultimately, she just wanted to escape." Escape? From what? I asked, surprised. Kamakshiro had 2 boyfriends, one a first year, one in second year. I wondered if she was escaping them. But Sasaki meant something else. "You wouldn't understand, Takeda-kun." "Why not?" "Because you don't have exams. How could you possibly understand the pressure?" I had no defense against that argument. "Right. You can't understand. Yeah. Yeah." The other girls joined in, almost accusatorially. The other students weren't watching us directly, but they weren't not watching us either. They just sort of sat around us, flipping through their vocabulary flashcards. "I'd run away if I could, but I can't. We're not all as irresponsible as Kamakshiro," Sasaki said very coldly. Everyone nodded. Not one of them appeared to be the least bit worried about her. "When you see a fellow human being crying," I heard Boogiepop's voice in my ear. The teacher arrived. We stopped talking and went back to our seats. I could barely manage to sit through class. The guy in front of me was studying something else. Everyone was only in class for their transcripts. All of them were certain that their test scores were far more important than learning itself. Even the teachers agreed, so they just lectured tediously, never calling on anyone, never asking if there were any questions. Why the hell were we even here? What had happened to Kamakshiro? Had her cheery exterior been a lie? I thought it was sometimes, but I didn't think she was the sort of girl to just up and run away. For those of you who know no tomorrow. But even so, I was just like the people around me. I knew nothing. I hadn't even known that Toka was possessed by this Boogiepop guy. I didn't listen to the teacher for the rest of class, and I sure as hell didn't take any notes. For all my complaints, I was even less serious about this than the people taking exams. Without any purpose, I just sat there stewing. That day, Boogiepop wasn't waiting on the roof. I waited for him for a while, but eventually the sun set, and I had to give up and go home. When I climbed up to the roof the next day, Boogiepop was waiting for me, but this time in a girl's school uniform. No strange costume. "Hey," he said, raising his hand. This gesture is how I knew it was him. Otherwise, I would have taken him for Toka. "No costume?" "Don't need it anymore, so she didn't bring it with her." He had explained once before that Toka would unconsciously carry it around with her, but I hadn't even thought anything of it until now. "What do you mean?" "The danger is over," he said flatly. "Eh?" Everything's finished, Takeda-kun. But wait, that's so... That's all there is to it. That's the way I'm made. When the danger is gone, I disappear. Like bubbles. The danger? Weren't you going to save the world? It hasn't been saved at all. But my job is finished. What you mean by save is not my job, he said, shaking his head quietly. But you said you were going to fight the devil that lives in the school. I did. I'm not the one that killed it, though. My mouth flapped wordlessly. I couldn't think of anything else to say. But, that's... Thank you, Takeda-kun. Boogiepop suddenly bowed his head. I enjoyed my time with you. Until now, I had never done anything but fight. You're the first person I could really call a friend. Perhaps you only spent time with me because I'm part of Yashitoka. But I had fun. I mean it. I suddenly realized just how much I liked him. I'd liked him ever since we first met in town. And not because he had Toka's face. Everything I wanted to say but couldn't express, he could, and would at the drop of a hat. That's why I liked him so much. Don't go. Eh? Don't go anywhere. You're about the only friend I have. I'd really like to keep meeting you. I hung my head, almost whispering. I may have been crying. Boogiepop made that face again. That's not true, Takeda-kun. It is! You simply aren't connecting with the world around you right now. I stopped breathing. Yashitoka's worried about you too. Don't let yourself think you're the only one who's worried. But what about you? If you just vanished without anyone the wiser, doesn't that make you sad? You're the wiser, aren't you? But I'm afraid you and Yashitoka have your jobs to do. Just as I have my duty. You two have to make your own world. You don't have time to waste belittling yourself, Boogiepop said curtly. There was nothing left for me to say. I hung my head and stuttered. But... When I looked up, there was no one there. Startled, I raced around the roof, but there was no sign of him anywhere. Just like the first time I saw him, he vanished in the wind. When I came down the fire escape, I found Miyashita waiting for me at the bottom. I could tell instantly that it wasn't him. When she looked at me, she smiled. You're late, Takeda-senpai, she said in a voice that seemed to tumble. Eh? You told me to wait here, and then you show up late. You big meanie. I was taken aback. Then it hit me. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't even notice that she doesn't know. Her memories are automatically corrected. That explained it. She had automatically created a reason for her to be here. Sorry. I bumped into a friend. On the roof? Were you called out by school thugs? Does our school even have any? Good point, she laughed. Suddenly, I felt a great affection for her. You got cram school today? Yeah, at 5. I'll walk you to the station. She looked surprised. Leave school together? Hey, I'm on the disciplinary committee. You sure? The gate guards are all my Kouhei. They'll let us by. I didn't let her squirm out of it, but we didn't hold hands or anything. Natoki was watching the gate. For some reason, the school's problem child, Kira Managi, fresh off from her suspension the previous Friday, was standing next to her. She was slim and tall, and all the guys said she was as pretty as a model, but she looked a little harsh to me. She was the polar opposite of Natoki, and I was surprised to see them acting so friendly towards one another. When they stood next to each other, they looked like sisters with years between them, or perhaps a mother and child who were closer in age. Oh, senpai, Itoki said, smiling despite seeing her classmate Toka standing next to me. Hey, I grunted. So you're Miyashita Toka, said Kirima Nagi abruptly, suddenly standing right in front of her. Yes? I'm Kirima. Nice to meet you, she said, thrusting out her hand. She sounded more like a man. Hey, I said, butting in, but Toka bobbed her head and took the offered hand. Kirimanagi made a wry smile that reminded me of Boogiepop and walked on by. While we were still stunned, Itoki said, "Come on now, senpai, Miyashita-san. Run your cards through." We did as we were told and exited the school. The road was covered in fallen leaves. These maple leaves look so beautiful when they're falling, but once they've fallen, they're just a mess, Toka said, walking carefully to avoid them getting stuck to her shoes. But they're still lovely when they fall. That your opinion as a designer? Not really. I'm jealous of you, you know. Toka pouted as she suddenly started stomping through the leaves. Hey! I've got to take a quiz on idioms today. I hate it. The leaves squelched beneath her feet as if she were tap dancing. You say that, but I'm still going to college, she interrupted, still keeping her face turned away from mine, slopping through the leaves. No matter what you say. What I say? I couldn't remember saying anything against it. You went and decided what you were going to do all by yourself. You're all confident now. Like you're snickering at the rest of us. That's what I was about to say everyone else was doing. But she looked up at me seriously, and I bit my tongue. That was pretty stressful, you know. I thought it was going to eat me alive. But I'm over that now. Finished with it. She looked up. I was surprised. She looked just like Boogiepop. To tell you the truth, senpai, I remember standing you up that Sunday. Eh? But I wanted to mess with your mind a bit. Sorry, she said, and bowed her head. Her movements were Toka's. There was no hint of Boogiepop. It can't be. Her anxiety had called out Boogiepop? Was that the devil in the school? Does that mean that I had defeated it? She had told me of her worries through Boogiepop, and she no longer needed to be afraid. That danger had passed. I stopped in my tracks. My eyes were wide. Toka was staring at her shoes. They're all dirty now, she said. She giggled then, sheepishly. Boogiepop had said he had no dreams. He never laughed. I looked at Toka's pretty, cheerful smile and thought, Boogiepop can't do that. It's our jobs to laugh.
Interlude. Backing the story up a little. Somewhere between day and night, in a dim, gloomy room, a girl lay on her side, without a stitch of clothing on her. She wasn't moving. The manticore stood next to her. The room was silent. Slowly, elegantly, it stooped over the fallen girl. It brushed aside the girl's hair and kissed her on the forehead. It moved down to her nose, then her chin, neck, chest, stomach, and abdomen, licking each of them, leaving a thin blue trail. Everywhere its saliva touched changed color. When it had licked the girl all over, the manticore moved its mouth away. The girl's body began to change. All over the surface of her skin, snap, snap, thin cracks tore open. The manticore watched in silence. At last, the girl's body crumbled inward, like a mud sculpture left in the sun. A purple smoke rose into the air. The manticore sucked the smoke into its mouth. The smoke rose and rose, but the manticore never stopped breathing it in, like a fish tank with the plug removed, sucking it all away. Its throat moved, swallowing it down. When it had swallowed the last puff, the manticore ran its tongue over its beautiful, lipstick-red lips. A drop of liquid slipped from the corner of its mouth and rolled off its chin. This drop of liquefied smoke was the color of blood and flesh. There was no other trace of the girl, or of the smoke. In the darkness, the manticore laughed. Her name was ancient Persian, and it meant man-eater. That delicate laugh bloomed like a morning rose, triumphantly extolling its evil.